I'm Didi Payne-Kimbrough.
I'm Shauntavia Williams, aka Cheeks.
Welcome to C&D Beauty Studio.
Welcome.
All righty. Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Beauty Talks.
So I'm Didi Payne-Kimbrough.
I'm Shauntavia Cheeks Williams.
And this is our Beauty Talk session, episode 12. Yes. It's been 12 of these already.
Yes, and we are meeting with Cherelle Guyton of OSF?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're going to let y'all know what OSF means once we get in. She is a hair and wig designer out in Oregon, and we're so excited to speak with her today because why? She's a POC. What does POC mean? Person of color.
Yes, so without further ado, let's bring Cherelle in here.
Y'all a trip. Hey, y'all. Hi.
Hello.
A POC.
Yeah. POC in the house.
POC, right? What's up?
Yeah, now we got to get that on the t-shirt. Lord have mercy.
Yeah. What's up?
So we're so happy for you to be here.
I'm honored.
Yes,
I'm a little shy about it, so you know.
Yeah. We have so many people asking us about theater all the time, so we wanted to dedicate a week at least of talking to people in the theater who would talk to us, because not everybody would, but it's nice to have people of color, for lack of better words, that's where we are now, to be able to share their experience with us and to other people, because it's actually a lot rarer than people think.
Very rare.
Yeah, it is extremely rare.
Absolutely.
Few and far in between.
So we'll
kept that way for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess I will start by saying how we met. We normally ask people how they met us, but this is kind of a different situation, just like with last week. Mm-hmm. So I actually met Cherelle working at the Dallas Theater Center. She was hired to be the hair and wig designer for the show Penny Candy. So that's how we met. I love her energy. We just kind of vibed. She's very outgoing, very outspoken. And what I really loved about Cherelle is that she was able to get her point across to actors without being nasty. So everyone left feeling empowered and not put down. Wow. And so I love that about how she communicates with everybody in the room, from the producers, designers, actors, the crew, run crew, everybody. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I've been working on those communication skills a long time. Some stuff is just natural now, but other stuff I've been working on a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's good. That's hard to do. And I actually never officially met Cherelle. They kept trying to get us to meet, and every time she was here, I either had literally just left out the building, and they'll say, "Cherelle's here," or she just left. Yep. And I missed her, and it just kept happening. So we finally got to speak on the phone last week, and it was like, oh, this person is great. Like, we connected.
I enjoyed it. It was nice.
So here we are.
We had a whole episode and session on the phone.
Yeah. Yes, we did. Well, I want to start by just briefly tell people exactly what it is to be a hair or wig and makeup designer, and exactly where where you are. Tell us about OSF and what that is.
Okay. So which one you want me to start with? You want me to start with defining OSF or the wig? Okay.
Yeah.
So I currently work for the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which is in Ashland, Oregon, Southern Oregon. The Oregon Shakespeare Festival is an 85-year-old theater, which is one of the largest and oldest repertory theaters in the nation, if not the world, at this point. While we do Shakespeare, we also do other classic works as well as new works. And things of that nature. And so we do anything from fantasy to real life to period performances, all of that kind of thing, and or even some abstract things. My role here, I have a few different roles. I have a pretty long title, but my role here is Hair and Wig Manager and Salon Director in regards to my full-time role. And then as of 2018, I started guest hair and wig and makeup designing here at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. We do not have a separate makeup department. We have a hair and wig department, but in the event we have makeup that requires special effects, prosthetics, and or something that the actors just are not able to learn and do, then we provide them with makeup applications, makeup tutorials, and or makeup pending what's required for the role. And so my role as manager is pretty much acting as the liaison between all of the other departments. We work very closely with costumes and wardrobe, as well as, sound. We have to stay in contact with stage ops, all of those departments. And so I attend the production meetings and things of that nature in order to make sure there's constant communication, because people seem to always forget about hair and wigs. And I would just say, I've been saying this for a long time. There's quite a few other articles and or interviews where I say it, and I still say it in meetings. Y'all, people see the top of the head first. If that's not together, you kind of lost your audience. Mm-hmm. Unless the wig is not supposed to be together, the hair piece or the makeup, if it doesn't tell the story, then something is always going to be off. And then after you spend up the budget and or spend up the time, you'll realize, okay, it's the wig. And so oftentimes I will tell people, hey, we need to go ahead and I'm pretty assertive in the way I communicate, but I try to communicate, in a professional manner while remaining firm. And so as manager, talking to all of those departments, managing my team, allocating resources, ensuring inventory is up to date, ensuring that my team is using some of the latest technology and or tools, ensuring that we are sanitized. I'm big on sanitation, making sure that we are secure, making sure that we aren't overworking ourselves, as well as underworking ourselves in a way that we're not able to maintain the integrity and or we compromise the integrity of not only the wigs, but also the relationships with our actors. And so as a manager, I feel like with OSF, it's a very big and large beast. We do 11 shows. Well, historically, we've done 11 shows in rep all throughout the season and we usually open at the end of February, beginning of March through October. The Lizzies, which are our outdoor theaters, are opened during the summer months from June to the second week in October. And then all of our other shows, most of our other shows, unless they close early, run for 8 or 9 months. And so it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so you have to keep up with the administrative duties. You have to keep up with the business acumen, the labor. I'm responsible for my labor budgets. I'm responsible for my materials and resource budgets. I'm responsible for being able to look at design and or designing things that are within the budget, allocating my resources, communicating with my team, communicating with other members of production, as well as outside of production, because hair and wigs may or may not be called on to do things outside of just the specific shows. So as hair and wig manager, that's that role. And then I also am a wig master at the festival. So usually I tend to build and or wig master 2 to 3 shows. And as of late, started to designing in 2018, Romeo and Juliet was the first time they've ever had a hair and wig designer design anything. And I think it was 83 years then. And then also being a Black woman, because while I'm a person of color, I'm a Black woman and I'm a Southern Black woman at that. And so that was not only it meant a lot to me just personally, but also professionally and for our industry. And so that's the managing side. The wig mastery side is the artisan side. And the salon that we have actually maintains the integrity of the natural hair that our actors have and or hair pieces. We recently opened up, of course, got closed because of COVID, but we recently opened up Bring It Down the House, and our key stylist, Aquila Butler, she was responsible for actually designing the hairstyles for Bringing Down the House. So she not only maintained those styles and taught our wig technician the styles, but she also maintained the hair color, maintained any processes the hair needed, the trims, the shampoos, the wash, as well as we have an actress who was wearing a half wig, and that had to be sewn in and then also removed and maintain the integrity of her hair and bring her curls back because they were destroyed. We'll get into that a little later. They were destroyed on a film set by somebody who claimed they knew how to do our hair and didn't. And so she's maintaining the integrity and or restoring that. So that's the wig manager side, the wig master side, and the design side. Salon director. I'm sorry, salon director as far as the salon. And then the guest and hair wig designer that I do here is where I actually read the story, of course, to do my own research as a costume designer would. I do want to be clear. There are a lot of I think misconceptions in regards to what a wig designer or hair wig designer is and does. And it depends on in what, all of it's relative. It depends on what context. So if you're talking about someone who individually and personally designs wigs for one to wear, that's one, area. But as far as my area in theater, the hair and wig designer, I feel like should be doing exactly what the costume designer does. And they may not be compensated the same way and or even close. But for me, it's more about integrity and knowing what I'm doing. And so you're reading the script, you're analyzing it, you're reviewing it, you're sketching out those characters, you're actually creating boards, collages, and things of that nature to get your research so you can know what you're doing, and then moving forward with possibly how you want to implement that design or have that design implemented. Now, we don't often see that all the time with costume designers because they may be jumping lanes by telling a wig master how to build something rather than allowing them to do it. But for me, I'm quite dual-brained. And so oftentimes I'll design something and then quickly go into wig master artisan mode and figure out how to make it work. Yeah. So those are the few different roles that I play here in a way, I guess you can say. And then I also have my own business, C Styles You. It's been around about 10 and a half years now. I hit my 10th anniversary last August. And under that business, I rent wigs. I design hair, wigs, and makeup. I offer workshops and or consultations and things of that nature.
That's amazing. Like that little bit of things.
What I want to point out is, Didi, you need to tell Cherelle how y'all could have been working together if oh boy would have gotten you to move to Oregon. Remember?
Yeah.
They tried to plug her from Dallas and have her work in Oregon.
Yeah, they wanted me to come work for you. He's gonna kill me because I talk to him all the time. Is it Chris? He's normally the stage. Yes.
Oh, Chris Bolander?
Chris Bolander, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. Please don't be watching this. Didi forgot my name, Chris. He's really good, but he had every time he saw me, he was like, "Come on, like." She's got something open. Here it is. And then when you have the salon person available here, see right here. Come on, we want you to come.
We had to look high and low for our key stylist, and so we've had a lot of success with our recent. I know our first key stylist was from LA, and she was great. She was bomb, learned a lot from her. And our second one was from Georgia, same thing. I think she did a lot of runway. The first one has her own salon, has done runway, has done television, has done film. She has been in the game like 30 years or more. And the other one was a millennial. And she did some runway things in New York or Atlanta, that type of thing. And then Aquila now, who we have now, she actually has done theater and worked for different production companies. And she joined us last year, and then she returned this year prior to the COVID. So. Yeah. Well, girl, you should have hit me up.
Like, in Oregon, like, ain't nothing.
I know. Yeah, you have to be really willing to step outside your box and into another world to live in Oregon and to survive and thrive in Oregon. Like, you have to really find a whole nother, just have to really know what your goal is and what your focus is and know why you're there and find the beauty find your tribe. You do have to find your tribe, and then find the beauty of the place and what you're doing and really believe in it to stay, because you're going without quite a bit when you're here.
Yeah, I totally agree. But that's amazing. Everything that you've done and accomplished, not even done and accomplished, but what you have to do while you're there it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And it sounds like you're very well organized, which is...
Yeah, I try to. We're working more and more to get it even more organized. The last few years, I've been here since 2014. And so the last 6 years have been a wild ride, I will say. It's definitely been a roller coaster. And there have been some really high points, but there have also been some really low points and some disappointing points. And that's something that, we see every day on our TVs right now. It's very apparent as to the divide when it comes to humans and the way we see things. So it's one of those things. I call it one of the most amazingly horrid things I've ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. It's like amazing and wonderful. And it also, parts of it has been some of the most horrible things I've ever been through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wonder how many
like Shakespeare. Tragedies, comedies, and romances, except for the romance is a little, it's Oregon, but tragedies and comedies, romances and poems. So you see the tragedy and comedy side, and it's like that. It's like that here. Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about your role as the wig master opposed to the wig designer. Can you break it down a little bit more, the difference between the two?
So the wig designer would be what the costume designer would normally be, which is the person who reads and reviews the scripts and actually creates the collages and or finds research and defines the characters and finds out the nuances and the intricacies to the character. And so for me, I get pretty in-depth because I have a wild imagination. And so some of my process, of course, would be reading it and researching it. And of course, you do have to find out, from your director and your costume designer, like, you need to know, like, is it modern? Is it period? Has the world of the time been defined? Have any of those things been defined prior to you, reading it and like dreaming up all these things? You want to know, you want to have your list of questions and what I call like your fact-finding questions. You want to have that, touch base with them and read it. And you want to read it more than once. You want to do your research. I know a lot of people, technology is a wonderful thing. But I still believe in the library. Go figure. And so books, the library, the internet, like, depending on what show you're doing and how it's supposed to be done, you might even want to go to your primary research. And that's something you don't often hear about these days because people just so quickly Google things and or create things and call it art. While it may be their definition of art, it may not be accurate if you're doing a historical piece, and or the person wearing it may take it a different way pending their ethnicity, race, or religion. You just never know. And so I feel like you have to delve into the design work, know the script, do your research, start putting together your color palette, start putting together your textures, start really defining this character. And while you're doing this, make sure that you stay in conversation with your costume designer so that you're on the same page, so you're defining a character the same way, because everyone's pretty isn't the same. Everyone's wretched isn't the same. Everyone's unkempt isn't the same. And so you have to define all of those things prior to moving forward. I feel like prior to moving forward with getting totally wrapped up in the character and or the work, you want to keep it very fluid and open, and be respectful of it if there's a difference of opinion. And so that designer actually designs that kind of world of the characters through their hair, through their makeup, and or other facial hair pieces and or other hair pieces, period, that they wear on their bodies. And then they also will draw. Everyone doesn't require sketches and or drawing. I am not the best artist. And that's something that I just have to keep practicing and that kind of thing. But you also will draw, the full body and or the head and the hair. And then, select your colors and decide on exactly, your color, your texture, your length, your volume, your density, all of those kinds of things when you're looking at the character. And so does that kind of sum up the designer portion? Okay.
Yeah.
the wig master, and you know, people often use that word a little differently than what it's defined as. And so a wig master, I feel like, is someone who can take raw materials. They may or may not build full wigs. Now, there will be some folks who are serious wig masters who'll say, I totally disagree. If they cannot take all raw materials and build a full-length wig on their own and alter and all this stuff, they're not a wig master. Well, I've gone to a few theaters and worked with people. I've talked to people and networked with folks. And there are some folks who are considered wig masters who may or may not have built a full lace wig. Right. And so that, you know, it just depends on who you talk to, how long they've been in the game. The more senior you are and the more things you do, you define it as someone who can actually take the raw materials and build a wig from scratch based on the mold of someone's head and or the measurements of someone's head. And that person will be responsible for constructing the entire wig and or taking a wig that you get, that you order, and manipulating it by fronting it, which is cutting off the front and then laying the lace and then ventilating the front. And you can have the little fronts, you can have the bigger front, you can also replace the top. And so someone who is actually altering the wig and or creating a wig, a full wig from scratch. And they can customize it to the person's head. And so that's the crafty part of it when they're just building. But with us, our wig masters are responsible for, you know, having the fittings, like we have the consultation fittings first, where we're forming that relationship with our actors and talking to them and asking those questions to find out simple things like, what are you allergic to? Are there things you prefer, things you don't? You have a special side, all of those kind of things that also a hairstylist does, right? If you're holding consultation and getting all that information from, you know, your client. And so we kind of do that with our actors. And then eventually we have several rounds of fittings where we meet with the costume designer as well as the design assistant who's there to note take for the costume designer. We'll sometimes have our assistant wig masters there and or our key stylist may be there so that she can take the notes that she needs to take for the hair services that they need or require. And so that wig master does the fittings and then they move forward with finding the hair and or purchasing the hair or pulling the hair that they need. With us, oftentimes we try to batch our orders. I'm big on batching things. And so I like for us to order at the same time and then ask each other questions. And even if there's something that needs to be built and we haven't built it, one of us hasn't built it before, the other one can help. And so once you get the hair, then you start your build process, you move forward with it, you have more fittings until you get your final product. The wig master would also attend all your technical rehearsals up until I believe it's dress 1 or dress 2. For us, and they maintain the look of that show and are responsible for, in a way, supervising the work for that show for the entire run of the show. Other places are different because oftentimes wig masters may leave to go to another job. But here we're there with our work and then we're expected at the same time to start working on the next show, sometimes before the other show has even opened because it's 11.
Yeah.
On a rolling basis. Yeah. We're always building, we're always in fittings, we're always in tech, pretty much up until maybe late summer.
Wow.
You guys have a good staff because from what I see, what we have, we definitely don't have all those different positions. A lot of time the manager, who, you know, Nicole, she plays all of those roles and is just given that title of just manager. And she's actually a wig master, but not given the title. And then a designer at times and not given the title. So interesting to finally have it designed because here they use it interchangeably.
Right. And they do that in a lot of theaters throughout the nation. And that's really unfortunate because it's not the same thing. I've spoken with and or interviewed individuals who thought that they were wig masters, but they were wig managers and or wig supervisors. And they didn't do half of the things that I've done here and or people who preceded me done. They just haven't. It wasn't that. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't the same. And some of that is oftentimes budget and or the size of the theater. And then some of that is just ignorance in regards to the other staff and or leadership knowing exactly, you know, the difference. Because oftentimes people want to maximize what they can get out of that wig master and or that wig supervisor and or that wig manager because oftentimes people don't value hair. Yeah. They don't value that particular position. But hair will stop your show, you know, like it will stop your show. Yes, it will ruin relationships with people. people in the event you put crazy stuff atop their head. Like, it does not work, and it doesn't work well, and it's not a good use of resources to not respect the craft up front and decide exactly what it is that you need for your organization to make it happen. So it's often cheapened, in a way.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it happens all the time. We've seen it time and time again in a couple productions and stuff that I've seen, even that I haven't been a part of. You can go, okay, yeah, they definitely did put money in that budget.
We were part of one where the wig designer just was like, forget it. They going on with no hair. All of y'all put the wigs down. I'm done. And sent them out there. Was like, we're finna show you how important this aspect is, and y'all are going to respect it, or we're just not going to do it. And there was a lot of people mad that day, but I bet you the next day they came in with a little bit more respect.
And there have been times where people have had to take some pretty drastic measures in regards to being respected as an artist, being respected as a designer, being respected as a businessman or businesswoman, and as an entrepreneur. People, I've heard some stories. I've been a part of some stories. I've made some stories. You have not used some of my wigs before either. In general, like, there have been times where it was just like, oh no, we ain't no wigs. Ain't no wigs.
Figure it out.
Ain't none. Tell whoever come talk to me. Come on to the wig room. Ain't no wigs today. Y'all don't know how to communicate. Ain't no wigs. Send them out there with the wig caps on. They'll be all right. And then we will touch base with the actors, because the actors are oftentimes, they know something has had to happen, because that we have a relationship. But the thing is, when you are guest designing somewhere and things like that happen, you don't have that relationship. That person does not know you. All they know is, I have to go out here in a wig cap and or no hair when I'm practicing or rehearsing. And so that's when it gets really, you have to make a call. You have to make a call there. So.
So how have you pivoted during this time? How has production, I guess, changed for you now that everyone's home?
It's a lot of more so of the managerial type business work, the business side of it that's happening, because we are working from home pretty much as a team of us as managers. And we right now, because the festival has been shut down and people are still somewhat mandated to work from home, we're in phase 2, but we're going to stay in phase 2 for a while here in Oregon for several months. So they've canceled the rest of 2020 in regards to the shows. And so there's been a lot of budgeting. There's been a lot of budget scenarios that we've had to do and redo and look at. Right now, we're working on some protocols in regards to making sure that our protocols are more in sync, because oftentimes in theaters, people don't write things down. They don't have things in black and white. They just do things on a rolling basis, and they expect for there to be some sort of supernatural transfer of information from one human being to another. And they work with you in 2 or 3 days and you don't get it, something wrong with you. And that's crazy as hell. That's crazy as hell.
It does happen.
Come on now. And so, and I'm a work like that too. Like, I inherited that kind of stuff. And so I worked like that for a while, and due to some other reasons, I haven't been able to necessarily, I feel like I haven't been empowered in a way to necessarily put things in black and white in a way of, hey, this is what we're doing. But over time, as I have been able to build a department that believes in and or is striving to implement the missions and values and goals that we as a department have, we as an organization have, and that I as a leader have, we've gotten better with those kind of things. And we have some group agreements, and we've decided on some things. And then our staff is actually covered by they're a local, they're part of IATSE. And so they have their own CBA that they operate within, but then we have our own like group understandings and things that we're implementing and creating to make sure we have some paperwork on file so that we know how to do things. And so the paperwork part of it, has been the biggest thing. Budgeting, touching base with suppliers, looking at inventory, and also putting things up, because things are not going to be used for a while out here. Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize y'all are in phase 2. So
Yeah, we're in phase 2. We're going to stay here. It's June, and phase 2 is up to, I think, 50. It's 50 for some types of businesses, and then 100 for others. But you're still supposed to remain 6 feet unless you are going to get your hair done at a barbershop and or a salon. And you know, a lot of people are taking temperatures, and they have on their mask and their gloves, and so they have parameters in place for that.
So for those people who are out there who are interested in becoming a wig designer or just working in theater in the hair side, what advice would you give them? Like, what kind of education do you think they need to have, if any? And not just like formal education, but also skilled education as well. Like, what advice do you give them, or what kind of resources and education that they need to do that?
Okay. So there are multiple paths into working in theater. I feel like multiple paths into working in theater. As a designer, somewhat, some of the things are very variable. I want to preface it with some things are variable and some things are not going to work for everybody. And when I say that, I think the first thing that we have to do, like I said, with certain stuff I say, everybody's not going to agree. But the first thing you have to do is check yourself and make sure that you're like a person who can actually be liked.
Be liked.
Yeah.
You know what?
And that sounds, but nobody really continues to go to hairstylists or barbers or wants anybody in their head and face who they don't like that.
Yeah.
So I think, and when I say that, I don't mean that in just a superficial vain way. I mean that in a way of being cordial and the ability to communicate, the ability to have empathy, the ability to listen, the ability to agree but disagree, and or just disagree and not really have to say much. Just kind of, move forward, whatever you need to do in the way you need to do it, where you can tweak things. Because sometimes people feel like if you disagree, then you have to be here. And my thing is, let's figure out how we can get there. And so inventory also on the things like, hey, do I really have a knack for an eye for color? An eye for patterns? Is that something that consistently over time that I do well and I thrive in? So I feel like you have to have some sort of confidence or esteem and knowledge, as well as, are you crafty? Do you build? Are you interested in those? Figure that out about yourself, as well as what does it mean to work in theater? What does it mean to be a designer? What does it mean to be a wig master and artisan? Because from in my field, from what I've seen, I've not seen anybody who's gone from school straight to wig designing, and or the master stylist or best stylist ever just going straight to wig designing in the theatrical industry. I've not seen that. And I've not been part of that journey. And so the inventory on yourself, as well as the inventory on your skill set, your personal and professional skill set. Like, what do you have in your toolbox? And are those things actually mesh with what's required? Because theater is not an easy sport. It's not an easy art form. People often think, like the theater kids, they're over there and, playing. And it's like, you ain't got no job. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no job. You're playing. Them people don't make no money. They playing in the theater. That's for somebody else. That's for somebody who come from means to be able to make money. And it's like, a lot of that's true.
Yeah.
A lot of you do play, but it's serious.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing plays, but it's very serious. It's a very disciplined thing. So you need to be able to know if, hey, am I willing and able to go after my full-time job into the theater in the evening? Are you a nighttime person? Because you're working at night oftentimes. So you're working from evening all the way through the night. You may go to sleep by 1, 2, 3. Get a few, that kind of thing. Like, are you ready for that lifestyle? That's what I'm trying to say. The lifestyle is not the necessarily most glamorous. Hair and wig people are often like wardrobe, where we're the first ones to come in and we're the last ones to leave. And so figuring out, like, lifestyle wise, if you want to be in a dark, cold theater 24/7.
Yep.
And so as far as the pathway, I think there are many different things that you can do. My personal path I was doing theater ever since I was a little girl. And so I started off doing stuff at church. I started doing stuff in the community as well as school. I was doing stuff at 2, 3, 4. And so, I mean, some people go to church, some people don't, but those Easter poems,
Okay.
and the church plays paid out. Paid out, honey. Them Easter poems, my Easter speech. Okay, so my Easter speech, I'm just kidding. Our church had a drama club. Which I tell you was
Yeah.
I'm saying my Easter speech.
Honey,
I have a dream.
The drama club at the church, the drama club in elementary school, middle school, if you have that, if not form your own, you know, that kind of thing. Like ever since when you're little, there are things that are out there. There's art classes out there. You want to be a designer, art class, you know, there are, if you have that at your school, you know, that those kind of things. Art class, pay attention to the art class when it comes to textures and patterns, discipline and patience. Reading and comprehension, you know, when it comes to that, as far as the designing, not if you don't like to read, you don't want to do plays, you don't want to design plays. You know what I'm saying? You have to like reading to a certain extent. And so when you're little, it's those art classes, it's the drama club, it's the church with the Easter speech, it's the community putting on skits and plays and people around town wanting to do anything that's live entertainment. I started on stage, but I was always told by teachers, Black and white, in theater, honey, you're going to have to learn how to do everything or a lot of things in the theater to be able to survive and to be able to have work, because there's always going to be somebody who is better than you at different, you know what I'm saying, at something. And so you want to be multi-talented and or very somewhat pliable in a way where you can do other things. And so from, you know, we talked about like elementary when you're little, and in middle school around the same thing. We had drama in middle school. And so I had a theater class that I attended, and you had the drama club outside of the theater class and those kind of different plays. And we often, whether we were acting, whether we had to do backstage, costumes, you had to switch it up in regards to what role you were playing. High school, same thing. Theater. I was part of the drama club. I was part of the theater program. And then when there were things that were going on outside of school, I attended those too. I'm the type of kid that grew up where my mom did not allow us to just hang out or just have like a summer. I did not have like a summer where I didn't have to do anything until I was a full-grown adult and out her house. And so every single year, we were going to somebody's summer camp for either science, math, and engineering, and or theater. I remember when my mom found this program at I think it was Hand Middle School, and it was a artsy summer camp. And it was nice. And so in Columbia, South Carolina, where I'm from, Hand Middle School was, I don't know if it's more diverse now, but I know that it was predominantly white school. And there were, though, people of color, though, in that program, like a few. And I remember we got to do the paper mache mask on our face, and we did the mold. That was the first time I've ever done a mold. Wow. When I got to do the mold on my face. And then we also had dance and art and all of these things that was like other people's stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because growing up in the South, it's like, oh, that's for those kids. My mom was like, no, that's for you. Whatever you're interested in, I don't mind investing in what you're interested in, because she knew that's what I was going to do. And so doing things like that on my own and or looking for my own stuff. I worked at my first job was at a television station. So certain things I would actually look for as well. So I had that hunger and or that thirst to do more. And then as I got older, I would say after high school, I went to undergrad. And while I was in undergrad, I ended up graduating from University of South Carolina. And so I got an undergrad of theater, a BA in theater with a concentration in costume, wig, and makeup design. And I wanted to be a costumer. I thought I wanted to be a costume designer, but I don't like to sew like that.
No.
I know how to use a sewing machine. I can hand stitch. I sew all right, but like the clothes that I would be designing, the stuff I want, honey, I'm gonna have to hire a draper.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's It's people I've already reached out to out here like, hey, I'll probably be hitting you up so I can get some stuff designed. And so my professor was like, okay, you can't just be a costume designer and draw pretty pictures and hand sketches to people. The way I learned was you have to know how to design as well as build. You have to implement your designs too. And so over time, one of my professors, Valerie Pruitt, she noticed what I was more interested in was the hair and wig and makeup. And so she kind of took me under her wing. And I was the only Black person in the program in regards to Backstage. It wasn't just a person of color. It was like person of color, Black, any of that. I was the only one. Wow. And so, yeah. And so, you know, you often see us on stage, but when it comes to Backstage, you don't see us. So it was like a unicorn, which they often call, you know, I've been referred to here as a unicorn, but even there, like I was like this magical unicorn. So many things that have been done and said to me, at me, around me. I mean, just crazy stories created or made up when it comes to certain individuals. And it's totally opposite from the way that when people get to know me and their people work with me. But it's funny because what people will do is they'll create stories about you and constantly talk about that to the point where they almost make somebody else believe that is you. Even though the person works with you and sees you and knows how you are, for some reason, you like, it's like you split. And it's like, I'm a Gemini. Yeah. But I ain't crazy like that. I'm not like that when you get a whole different person. What this person said, but this person has a history of being abusive and racist and discriminative. And treating people as if they're beneath them, because the hierarchy thing is real too. The racism is real, the hierarchy is real. And so there was an individual when I first got here. Within my first 90 days here, I was hit in the head, like pushed in the head. There was a hairstyle that I did where I did like what I call my when I do my updos and I add my Kanekalon hair and I create like this big sculpture in the front. And then instead of doing the back, I had taken like the old school buns, you know how the buns that are already done, and it matched the hair in the front. And I put that on the back and it was intricately designed, and I sprayed my hair up and made everything look like it was my hair. And it was doing like a company call where this woman who was older than me, not too much older, a few years apart, but highly problematic, who was known to verbally abuse people, say all kind of stuff, those stuff, do something. She was actually she was actually the person that my first day here not only yelled and cussed at me, but also threw a tantrum and threw stuff on the floor. Like she yelled my first day here, this woman yelled and cussed at me, and because the supervisor had given me the track that she was supposed to run, the 2 shows, she started screaming, "Oh my God, you stole my show. You stole my show. You stole my show." Then within like an hour and a half, I not only saw her get into it with the supervisor and the other wig masters, but when there was a guy who was telling me he might be moving out of his apartment and talking about his housing and they were going to have to go. And I started inquiring and asking about it. She was like, she overheard the conversation. She's like, "First off, you steal my show. You steal my show. Now you're trying to steal my house. You're trying to steal where I'm going to live. What the fuck?" And just threw it in the towel.
Oh my God.
And I just turned around and looked at her. Because I was like, "Oh, this bitch crazy." Crazy, man. She crazy, man. It's my first day. How they got me out here like this? It's far. I came over 3,000 miles, come out here with these people, do these wigs. I'm trying to slay these wigs and learn stuff. And they got, she done cussed at me. I done stole the stuff. I'm still in the house. So then we have a quick like sit down meeting. She cussing and fussing with the supervisor. Her and her little crony, her and her friend, they going back and forth. And I mean, this behavior continued all year. Wow. It was continued behavior all year. That was 2014. Wow. Same foolishness in 20. How long did I have to work with her? 2.5 years I had to work with her. I became her supervisor in 2016. Wow. And that was a whole thing in itself. The certain levels of disrespect and certain things, and that was a whole other situation. So certain levels of disrespect were still there, but you know what I'm saying, just done in a different way. Then they want to come for you in a different way. They want to mess with your job and your reputation and your livelihood. They will do that to you. They will do that to you. Yeah, they will. And so they don't mind. They don't mind if you don't eat and your kids don't eat and your family don't eat. They don't care. And so, you know, the same woman though, after the first day of doing that, within the first maybe within the first 2 months of we working there, it might have been less than 90 days. There was a company call, and I could hear them. They didn't even speak to me, but I could hear them behind me laughing and cackling and asking little questions about what you think it is and you think it's real and that kind of stuff. And then I was trying to pay attention because I'm brand new and I want to pay attention to what's being said. And she, got up enough energy and courage and decided to push me in the back of the head. I'll never forget it.
Lord.
Oh,
Yep. Pushed me in the back of the head, and the supervisor and the wig master who saw laughed.
See?
Yeah, they laughed. They thought it was cute. They thought it was funny. They laughed.
Wow.
It's like they feel like, oh, y'all just take it. But if
I'm getting hot
returned, you would be written up, fired, or whatever, let go. But we were supposed to just grin and bear it. Like they still feel like they own.
Right. And the thing is, it required so much discipline and strength and focus because I could have easily, with a one swift move, I could easily have broken her entire wrist and she would have never done hair again.
Okay.
I decided, okay, move forward with applying and that kind of thing. Because for me, an interview and working for someone is not just one-sided. I understand that people have to provide basic essentials for themselves and live. But when it comes to something like theater, this art form, or for some, this sport, as you will, it's actually a choice, to do that. And so I just think you have to take a lot of stuff into consideration.
Yep.
Overall, and acknowledge certain things and know the history.
Yeah.
Know the history. But at the same time, one thing that I don't like that I see in the industry, and I've even had to work on myself emotionally, mentally, is not with the martyr syndrome. You have individuals who feel like you have to go through everything that they went through, if not more, before you are good enough, relevant enough, or deserving of a different type of position. And it takes a lot of integrity, emotional and mental maturity to be able to say, no, actually, Shauntavia is better at this than me. I'm going to step aside and have her do that.
Yeah.
Or to be called about some work or some show or anything of that sort and hand that over or give it to someone else or you know what I'm saying? And give somebody else somebody's name. And so that's something that, we have to get past what that essential thing of racism and discrimination and all those things first before we can do that across channels. But that's something else, even with your own folk, whether it's Black folk, Latin folk, Asian folk, whoever, that we have to be able to do and to know. And it takes a different level of maturity and empathy to say, well, you know what? And I came out to Oregon. They tried to burn me. They really tried to annihilate me. But as I hire people and build my team, I do not want them to necessarily have to go through those things, right? So I do not necessarily want to overwork them or put even more pressure on them as persons of color and or Black people to do certain things. Is that something that has happened to me before? I've experienced or done before? Yeah, I'll be very honest, because we've always been conditioned that they have to be top of the line 3, 4, 5 times better, right? And then you have the people who hiring who don't look like us, who like, oh no, you need to check this. You need to check that. Why is so-and-so? They're always the point of contention. So you're like taking up for them, but you're trying to support them. You're trying to teach them. But some folk just won't act right. All skin folk ain't kin folk. They don't act right. They don't want to communicate with you. They don't want to understand what lies beneath. They just want to be like, la, 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 I want to do the thing too. Karen's doing the thing. I want to go play with Karen. Well, Karen, work looks a lot better than your work. And you done been out there how long? And you haven't got to the next level, And so I've had to also, as a manager and leader, work on being able to work and have the experience that I had with Shauntavia and the experience I had with Nicole and other people, because I also see like, you don't have to do it exactly my way or go through what I've gone through or have any of the credentials I or other people have that they drilled in my head that you have to have in order for you to be the best, in order for you to be good, in order for you to be worthwhile, in order for you to be deserving.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. So can you tell us what's next for you?
So I, with the COVID, I'm going to be honest, like outside of doing what's needed, you know, in regards to what we're working on with the festival, I've really spent a lot of time thinking, praying. I started back on my little workout regimen to get my body, because you do need your body in theater. You really need your body.
Oh yeah, you do. You need
your body, no matter what. Yeah, no matter what position you're in, it's a lot. It takes a toll on your body.
Yeah.
But I've really been like trying to reassess not only my own self and my own toolkit and what I have, but also reassess the way I do business and who I'm doing business with and what I'm doing business for.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the theater industry, I don't, you know, even if it does, because some people feel like it's going to eventually, all the industry is going to eventually get to normal. I don't necessarily know about that.
Yeah.
But I know when we go back, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be that same type of norm. It's going to be different. And I have to really think about that and process that and understand what that looks like and make decisions for myself in regards to, you know, whether it's theater or whether it's something else. Honestly, I love theater, and so I'll probably always be a part of theater. But the way I do business and who I'm doing business with and what I'm doing it for, really assessing that, because this is a time where a lot of people are working on their business and taking their business to the next level. But I have had my business for a while now, and have done it, you know, in a way in which that way was not necessarily like full-time at all. And so I have to make a decision on whether I want to continue doing business in that way for my own business or for my own self, or not. And what industry exactly I want to be in, whether it's still theater or not. I love theater, but at the same time, we never know. And for us, we're not coming back for a while. And so I know we're coming back, right? But we're not coming back for a while. So like, what does that in-between space look like?
For you. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely have always wanted to, like most people have their own line, wig line, and eventually like commercial theater commercials, film, television, that type of thing. Those are some avenues that I'm definitely interested in. But I don't, you know, y'all, I don't know how many of our theaters going to be left.
Yeah. Looking for someone.
I'm definitely interested. Yeah.
Tell them how they can contact you.
Natural hair wigs I've ever seen on TV and theater. Like when I saw your Afro wig, that it was like a grayer one, and then it was another show. It was an Afro wig. I've never seen anyone able to depict our hair on TV in a wig and make it look like that. You can always tell that our character, no matter how big the budget was, right? That's the crazy thing. They can have $1 million budget or whatever, and that wig still look like it was painted on, or you know, hard front.
We're talking about Greta and How to Catch Creation. The actress is Greta and How to Catch Creation. I think last year. Yes. Last year at OSF. Yeah. That's my baby. That was definitely one of my babies right there. I really enjoyed it. And that was our AD's first show she directed here. But yeah, it's really special to me. I like my froze, honey.
Yeah. She had the little swoop in it, the candy candy. I was like, okay with the little. Like it was shiny and fresh, like
And Aquila ended up running that one too. So he was able to maintain it for the actresses, and that's the other thing. Yeah. It's like they want to, whatever was designed for them, they also want somebody to be able to maintain that for all their words.
So how can people contact you if for any production or outside gigs? What's the best contact info?
So my site is cstylesyou.com, and I have a section on there where people can reach out to me via email. And then I am not really active on social media, but since I do know that this is going out, I'm going to do better. I am not on, like, I'll be honest, like I want to do my work. I want to do the thing. I'm not big on social media. My IG, my Facebook is there. As you can see, it's not really active. Hey, boo-boo. I'm going to be getting better with that, because that's something that I know, like, we're moving. I mean, we've already been there, but it's even more so about the virtual reality now. Yeah. And so I've been gotten on by so many people in the industry, outside the industry, like, Cherelle, you got to talk to people via social media. And I'm like,
Yeah, you got it.
Face to face. I'm getting accustomed to Zoom a little bit, but and then those who have my number can call me. You can always email me dramaticdesign@cstylesu.com. So, the site, the Instagram, the social media, the Facebook, they can reach directly out to me, and I will do better about touching back base with people, because even though I am a millennial, I am a little antiquated when it comes to communication. Like, I'm a little old school when it comes to certain forms of communication.